and I think, it's involved physical illness, it's involved depression, it's involved suicidal ideation, it's involved hating myself, being absolutely thoroughly disgusted with myself on just about every level, and learning that actually that makes me human, and I'm not the only one. And I think we've all got that ability inside, and that we've all had times in our life that shame has overwhelmed us, and that makes me really care for the human condition. It really makes me understand what's behind the image that someone shows me. I can see deeply into people because I recognize that actually we're not that complicated. We're really suffering from very similar limiting beliefs. We listen to too many stories that we tell ourselves, and the symptoms of chaos that exist in the world, from all the way from my life to the geopolitical stage, are all symptoms that point to similar causes underneath. And it's about love, it's about belonging, it's about self-esteem, it's about compassion, it's about forgiveness, all of those opportunities that we usually put off until it's too late. And that's when life comes and, hits us on the back of the head and says, you need to learn a lesson here. So I'm going to teach you one. I'm inspired by some of the youngers in the world now, the 20 and 25-year-olds that I work with, because they seem a little less contaminated, if you will. I think.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think we've lost. Not everybody. There are a lot of people who are deeply in the matrix and so on. But I am encouraged by the amount of people that have managed to keep that innate wisdom that I think is our birthright. I think it's what we came here with. We didn't have words for it at the time, and we needed a nipple to suck. But actually, I think there's something that we did come with, a cleanliness and an innocence that got whacked out of us one way or another. We got shamed into it, or we had to comply to get love, or whatever those reasons were at the beginning. They could almost all be said in one sentence when we go back to it. I don't feel like I belong. What I've got to say isn't important. I don't love myself. And actually underneath that, I know that every single human being wants to love abundantly and be loved ridiculously. Even the murderer does. It's just that they got it wrong, and they got caught into these stories and into these behaviors that have created lifelong consequences. And that's happening all the time. So how can we get the tip of the shovel under the rock and get some leverage there and shift that dumb thing, so we can really get the rocks out of our heart and get on with life? Because that's the opportunity here.
Yeah. And because it's shame's such a demoralizing emotion. It's extremely low frequency for people. And I've touched on this in previous podcasts, and when I've talked on podcasts, is understanding how our emotional states have us vibrate at different levels. It's a fascinating. Yeah. I learned it from a book. It's not something that I woke up and knew. Power versus Force by Stephen Peters, I think, is the book, and it showed us that shame is the lowest vibrational state. But how is it, or for yourself, because we can only talk about self when we're going through these things, what was the shame that you were going through or had to relinquish? And what was that journey for somebody who's sitting there going, look, Anthony seems to know what he's doing, but what was the shame that Anthony had, and how did he relinquish that shame?